Honorable adjudicators, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. As you might know, tech industries nowadays are practicing mergers and acquisitions, like Facebook with Instagram, Tokopedia with Gojek, and so forth. In my team's opinion, these mergers and acquisitions are actually a good thing. Here are a few of the reasons. A. There's no change in privacy. B. Reliable platforms. C. It's not monopolizing. And D. The practicality. Now, I would like to start with privacy. When we set up an account for an app or some, we would fill in some rather private for us, right? Like name, date of birth, place of birth, address, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, after this, these info, or rather confidential info of ours, are stored in their respective servers. Now, technically, these companies already have our data, but it's only by the company's decision whether they would access it or not. Big companies will always try to maintain their image so that they will always try to not let these things happen. Because if it did, they'll be sued and their companies will have a bad image and so on. But now, if small companies were doing this, people won't make much of a fuss around it because not many people are using their apps or services, therefore they don't care. And if the companies were sued, it's relatively nothing to lose for them. So if anything, our data is much more secured when it's left to the big companies rather than smaller ones. That moves us on to the second reason, which is reliable platform. Now, I want you guys to think, what makes these companies big in the first place? Well, they innovated something, people like it, their services are good, trustworthy, and so on. Now, if these bigger companies want to merge or acquire other smaller or even big companies, this will be great for us consumers. Well, why, you might ask? Well, now we have one big company that'll give services to us that are actually good and reliable. If we're relying on smaller companies that have relatively no track record, we're just basically relying on something that is not reliable. Yes, I know that smaller companies can innovate something that is better than what the bigger companies do, but the truth be told, the chances of that happening are very slim. Now, I want to talk about it's not monopolizing. People will always have the option to use other services, whether it's from a big company or a small company. But why people tend to go to a certain company more than other? Well, that's because they did something right. Their services are reliable, trustworthy, like it actually works. Okay, let's say Gojek. They innovated in the transportation role. Now, they were founded in 2010. Today, it's 2021. 11 years and still nothing can topple them down. Why? Well, because their services are actually great. It's not monopolizing because people have a chance to go to another service, but they won't. If other companies want to be better, they will have to do better. And people will always go for those that are better than other. And frankly, if those competitions were to happen, it's good for us consumers because it's more convenient. We can choose what we like more and so on. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about practicality. If these companies that were merged make one application for like a few things, it will be so much more practical for us so that we don't need to search around in Play Store or App Store for another app anymore. Everything is done in one app. Nowadays, files are getting bigger and bigger. Like, for example, 1 minute of like a 4K video can take up to 500 megabytes of storage. Obviously, if you ran out of storage in your phone, it can be rather annoying. So, not having some apps that can only do one thing rather than having one app that can do everything, it's much more convenient and practical for us. Therefore, we are proud to say that mergers and acquisitions within the tech industry is actually a good thing. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.